Awesome. Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kaka, ka tangi uki ko au, I ngā tini mano kua umai nei tēnā koutou. E te iwi kainga tēnā koutou. Nō reira. Kia ora tātou katoa. Tēnā koutou e te koru mātua whiu.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou I ngā kai tautoko putia. Tēnā koutou I ngā kai whakawā. Kia ora koutou katoa. Kua tai mai ki tēnei huinga. Ki te whakanui I tēnei ui. Ka nui te koa E tō koutou ka. Ki te āpai I tēnei kaupapa. Nō reira. Nā tini E ngā mano. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora.
No Ingarani,
Kia ora.
Oku Te Puna, ko Dave Bosworth Rāua, ko Christine Howard Oku Mātua, E tipu ake o ki Taranaki, E no ana o ki Awara. Ko Catherine Bosworth, Toku Ingoa, he kaiarahi puka puka apuri wānui o. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to His Worship the Mayor, Phil Nixon. Welcome to our sponsors, Ken Horner from Lysaght-Watt Trust, Brian Kirk from the Norman B and District Lions Club. Welcome to this year's judges, Eileen Merriman and Vaughan Rapatahana. Unfortunately, our third sponsor, Matt Rilkoff from the Taranaki Daily News, is unable to join us this evening. And he's also our judge for the research category. Finally, a big welcome to this year's finalists who are all tuning in from home, their families, and everyone who is also tuning in from the comfort of their home this year. We're here to celebrate the Lysaght-Watt Trust Ronald Hugh Morrieson Literary Awards for 2021. For those who don't know me, I'm Catherine Bosworth, the Community Outreach Librarian, and I'm your host for this evening. It's a little bit different this year. And as we acknowledge that we're all on Zoom, we're hoping with our fingers and toes crossed that everything stays connected well and we're able to have a smooth proceedings. So I'd like to invite His Worship the Mayor to say a few words.
Kia ora tātou, now mai haere mai, ko Phil Nixon, kora mātua o Taranaki ki te tonga. So welcome to the 2021 Hugh Morrison, Ronald Hugh Morrison Literary Awards, one of our big events that we have on our calendar in the district. And this event, like many others, is affected by COVID this year. And I really commend you, Catherine, for what you've done to be able to develop this so that we can actually run these awards and acknowledge these great people in their hard work and actually staying within the bounds of COVID restrictions. So well done to you, Catherine. Ronald Hugh Morrison, he spent most of his life here in South Taranaki, and he really modelled a lot of life in South Taranaki in what he wrote. And his writings have certainly put South Taranaki on the map in many ways and many places. And so, yeah, I'd like a special welcome to our judges for this year, and thank you very much for supporting us. So Eileen Merriman in the short story, Vaughan Rapatahana in the poetry, and Matt Rilkoff in the research one. And so, yeah, unfortunately, Matt's unable to be with us tonight, but big thank you to you guys. And also a huge thank you. These things don't happen without sponsorship and support. So huge thank you to you, Ken, and the Lysaght-Watt Trust as our main sponsor. Not only does Lysaght-Watt Trust support these awards, they support many events that wouldn't be able to take place here in South Taranaki without their support. So huge thank you to Ken and the team at the Lysaght-Watt Trust. And also thank you to our other sponsors that are here every year, Norman B and District Lions Club and the Taranaki Daily News. So big thank you to you guys to you, Brian, and your team, and obviously Matt, who is not here. And I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who has contributed to this event this year. A lot of hard work goes in, a lot of thought, many hours into writing and putting together your composition to take part in this. So well done, everyone. And I'd just like to congratulate those of you who do end up taking out awards tonight. So we will move on with the show. Thank you,
Awesome.
Catherine.
Thank you, Phil. As you know, the Lysaght-Watt Trust Ronald Hugh Morrieson Awards honour the late work of the Ronald Hugh Morrieson himself, who was a novelist and short story author in Hawera. This is the 34th year that we've held the awards, and like last year, this year is one of a kind. Due to COVID-19, the decision was made to run this evening's event virtually rather than cancelling it completely at the last minute. Really grateful for technology right now. It was fantastic to see such a significant increase in entries this year, with over 150 coming through. That's about 30 up from last year, so massive increase. This has shown us that despite the hurdles that have come with this year, the passion for writing in Taranaki is still very much there. Taranaki is very fortunate to have such an ongoing collection of stories published year after year. It's a valuable part of the history of our local communities. Writing is therapy for the soul. It offers the writers a chance to share ideas and give others a new perspective. It helps people identify with others. And most importantly, storytelling of this calibre shapes communities by voicing hope, ideas, and realities. This competition enables the gathering of stories to be shared within our communities. We have 3 groups within our communities who are extremely supportive of this competition. Our largest sponsor of these awards are the Lysaght-Watt Trust. We have been able to grow these awards to what they are today with the Trust's ongoing support. We thank the Lysaght-Watt Trust for making these awards possible year after year. The Lysaght-Watt Trust has been a great supporter of this competition, being the main sponsor for over a decade, as well as many other Library Plus activities, such as this competition, the Summer Literacy Program, Storyteller Tours, Children Book Awards, and teen programs. The charitable trust was established by the late L.H. and M.M. Watt to provide funding assistance for worthwhile Taranaki community causes in various sectors, including arts, culture, and heritage, and is administered by the trustees at Halliwells. Since its inception in 2008, the Trust has granted over $1 million of worthy local community projects and people. We're fortunate to be one of the recipients of this generous sponsorship. I'd like to invite Ken Horner from Lysaght-Watt Trust to say a few words.
Thank you, Catherine. A very flattering introduction, but no, we're very pleased to support the Ronald Hugh Morrieson. As Phil said, it is one of the premier events in Taranaki, and should really only have a really bright future. As I probably bored some of you before, I grew up across the road from Ron, and I was aware he was a sort of bohemian. He lived there with his mother. But the only sound that I can ever remember is her teaching music, piano, and you'd hear that of an afternoon and evening. As I said, it is a very important award, both for Taranaki and for literary values. And I am surprised it doesn't get more business or commercial support. Something the locals at least might like to ponder. We're very lucky that Catherine has continued the to keep the whole award to sort of a very high standard, which it has been for years, and I like her enthusiasm. I think the entries indicate how well it's been done, and the presentation was well thought out. So the award is to remember the past and wrong, and to honour the current literary scholars, from the very best to the enthusiastic. So I'd like to congratulate all participants and winners, and look forward to being back next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Keaton. Okay, so the next sponsor that we have for these awards are the Norman and District Lions Club. They sponsor the research category and have since the conception of the category and a number of years ago. I think it's now 6 years. Seems to be going pretty quick. So I would like to invite Brian Kirk, who's the current president of the Norman and District Lions Club, to say a few words.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you to you and your team at the South Taranaki District Council for putting on the awards and what we all agree are challenging times. I acknowledge Mayor Phil Nixon and thank the judges for all their work and effort, and acknowledge the other sponsors, the Lysaght-Watt Trust and the Taranaki Daily News, and we extend our best wishes to Matt at this time. Now, Lions have always had a focus on youth and education. So several years ago, we made the decision to support the research article category, and I would like to acknowledge two of our members, Fred Kirsten and Frank Eustace, in this regard. Okay. And we saw the awards as something that met the Lions' goals of helping people to actualise their potential and develop their talents. And the awards, of course, also honour one of Harvard's sons whose talents may not have received the recognition that they deserved in his lifetime. Ronald Hugh Morrieson wrote 4 books, only 2 of which he lived to see published. And the opening sentence of the first of these, on the Scarecrow, has become one of the most recognised passages in New Zealand literature. It also shows that Ronald Hugh was the master of the intro. So on behalf of the Normanby and District Lions Club, I would like to congratulate not just the winners, but all those who entered this year. And I would like to close with the words of William Faulkner in a speech accepting the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1949, in which he described his writing career as a life's work in the agony and sweat of the human spirit, not for glory, and least of all for profit, but to create out of the materials of the human spirit something which did not exist before. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. The Taranaki Daily News also sponsor the research category of this competition. Unfortunately, Matt Rilkoff is unable to join us tonight. So I'd like to just thank the Taranaki Daily News for their generous sponsorship that they have given us over the years. The prizes for each category are: third place receives $200, second place receives $300, first place receives $500. The short story and poetry categories are sponsored by the Lysaght-Watt Trust, and the research article is sponsored by the Normanby and District Lions, as well as the Taranaki Daily News. The winner of the research article receives a 1-year subscription to the Taranaki Daily News on top of their prize money. I'd like to thank once again our generous sponsors for supporting this event year after year. If we didn't have the sponsorship and the support, our event wouldn't be as significant and as special as what it is currently. So now on to tonight's presentations, the part I'm sure everyone at home is eagerly waiting for, and I'm sure has been waiting for all day, is when it's at home, it kind of feels like the day drags on a little bit. So we'll begin with the short story category, followed by poetry and ending with the research. After all winners have been announced, the Zoom will end and I'll be in contact with each place getter tomorrow in regards to how we'll be getting their prize money to them this year, their certificate and finalist booklet. The two categories for the short story section are secondary school section and the open. The secondary school remains specifically for South Taranaki residents and ratepayers, as it has been since the beginning of the awards 34 years ago. The open section allows anyone over the age of 13 whose parents or caregivers are residents or ratepayers in Taranaki to enter. This allows students from other Taranaki schools to enter the competition as well. It's a privilege to welcome this year's short story judge, Eileen Merriman. Eileen is an award-winning novelist, short story and flash fiction writer with numerous published novels. Merriman's young adult novel Pieces of You, Catch Me When You Fall, and Invisibly Breathing were finalists in the New Zealand Children's and Young Adult Book Awards and are Storyline's notable books. Her first adult novel, Moonlight Sonata, was released in 2019 and was longlisted for the Jan Medlicott, reading my piece of paper, Acorn Prize for the fiction. So Eileen, welcome. We're going to hear a brief synopsis of how you found the awards this year and just anything else that you'd like to say.
Right, okay, so thanks very much for inviting me to be a judge, and I really enjoyed reading the stories, and they were certainly reflected South Taranaki life very well. So I thought many were in keeping with the theme of Hugh Morrison's books, with the usual sex and death and violence and black humour, all in a small town setting. And topics range from comedy while sheep shearing to murder at an AMP show, domestic abuse, ghostly visitations while out bushwalking, and a grisly accident in the bush. But ultimately the stories that stood out were those that approached a topic in a unique way, or that experimented with form, or that made me laugh, or in the case of the first place winner, did all three. And all of these stories very clearly evoked the South Taranaki, and with the first and second place winners, the black humour that Hugh Morrison so enjoyed. So the story that won first place immediately captured my attention with its unique form and humour, while it was a much harder decision which of the runners up should be second and third, but a decision had to be made. So are you going to announce the place winners now? Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So what we'll do is we'll announce secondary school first, and then we'll follow it by the open. Of course, this year, because we are virtual, we don't have the finalists on screen to even virtually receive their award. So we'll just imagine that at home they are getting up and shaking hands and their families are clapping and congratulating them. So I'll announce who the finalists are and then in their places, and then Eileen, I'll get you to read your comment for that person, and then we'll move into the next place. Once we get to the first place, read the comment, and then we'll also get you to read the winning short story. Okay?
Yeah.
So third place for the secondary school short story goes to Krishay Lau from Hawera High School with their story Jigsaw Puzzle.
Yeah, so I thought in some ways this was a love letter to Taranaki, as well as to the protagonist's recently departed mother. There were really beautiful descriptions of scenery and a really poignant ending. I just want to read that sentence aloud. For a brief, flustering moment, closing my eyes and picturing my mum's hair in the sunshine, long and loose, reflecting the sunlight, I felt at ease with the world, ngā mihi. It was just a beautiful lyrical story. I really enjoyed that.
Congratulations, Krishay. So second place goes to Jordan Dawson from Hawera High School with their story Theatricals.
Yeah, so I thought this really captured the world of the theatre. I really felt as if I were there, in this case the Hawera Memorial Theatre, and it really evoked sympathy for the hapless Jameson, who's a city councillor trying his hand at acting. So congratulations.
Congratulations, Jordan. So taking home first place tonight for the secondary school short story is Krishay Lau from Hawera High School with their story Lost in a Void.
Yeah, so I thought this was really eerie atmosphere and very lyrical prose, and I felt as though I'd been transported into another world, which I guess was the whole point because it's set in space. And I thought the most amazing sentence came out of this was this one here. In monochrome musings, the moon is a deep silver ballerina turning pirouettes with perfect form. And there were lots of nice lines in here, and I'm going to read it anyway, so you can listen to that and enjoy it. But yeah, a really well-deserved winner. This really stood out. So I'll start reading now. Lost in a void. The blackness was perfect, a sort of visual silence that gave a revered awe. With eyes closed, there was the simple sweetness of existing, of being, of breathing, and how these moments extended with such grace until the dawn chose to bring back the colours. Being in a darkened abyss for what feels like centuries truly makes one realise how blessed we are to be alive. The universe to me is a silent song of pure love, shining like bright stars in the night sky. It's the perfect tone that gives birth to space-time and matter, the voice of God. In the black body of heaven's keep, among the ravishing cosmos, I travel ever onward. I feel like a ghost in a world of paper dolls. I am a ghost in my own machine. I am a ghost running through space and time, looking, always looking in the blackness for a sacred spark. Beauty is not scarce in this moment, but oxygen is. My spacesuit is my lifeline, protecting me from these extreme temperatures and providing me with oxygen to breathe while I am in the vacuum of space. The special garment is white in colour, the kind of white that summer clouds radiate, the kind that raises the eyes heavenward. Warning! Oxygen levels depleting. 30 minutes remain, echoed my life support system, but my mind is too distracted. Random thoughts, they are the music of my soul, with a great tempo and soft pauses. I ponder on how I escaped the destruction, how I ended up here. My friend Ashan was a marvellous astronaut. I can remember him so vividly. There was a softness to his appearance, a kind of warmth married to a shyness. It was the look of an honest man. When I met him in the NASA internship program, I knew I'd found a special friend. He wore the same old worn-out jeans and beige duffel jacket each time we conversed. His hair was brown and always messy. His words were subtle but powerful. Ishan was NASA's most promising prospect until one day after our centrifuge spin, Ishan experienced a nosebleed that was quite dire. I asked if he was all right, and before he could respond, he fainted. Later, I was informed that Ishan was diagnosed with leukemia. The news hit me like a speeding train. I was devastated. On his deathbed, he told me, "The composed soul, the steady heart, the engaged brain will always find their way home. That's what I believe. So be stoic. Lost is temporary. You are your own compass." I am my own compass. Warning, oxygen levels critical. 15 minutes remain. I know the sun is a star. I just never felt it before. There is such a difference between knowing and feeling. The golden rays of the sun were the shade of bleached buttercups. It is true what scientists say. We're so minuscule in size compared to the celestial bodies of the universe. Floating high above the once majestic Earth, seeing the destruction that the asteroid did, I felt exasperated. I felt useless. I felt cowardly. I wish I could have done something. I wish I was massacred with the rest of humanity. I just wish. I'm a lucky person. Even my bad luck becomes good luck. It can turn around in a while, or at times almost instantly, yet always I see the workings of karma stepping upward. I was sent up to the International Space Station by myself several days before the asteroid hit. Mission Control never picked up the asteroid on its radar tracking data, which is bizarre. Catching asteroids is as easy as catching butterflies in a net. I assume a malfunction in the system eventuated, a malfunction that led to the death of billions. In monochrome musings, the moon is a deep silver ballerina, turning pirouettes with perfect form. Tilting my lifeless body to the left, I see the moon. Bathed in the light of the sun, the moon was more beautiful than even the stars around. Upon the starlit infinity, in the zero-gravity arena, I am the finest of fish, relearning how to swim. As a child, I'd always dreamed of floating through the cosmos. I imagined that in every direction there was a star. Should I fly into the universe any way, it would be the right way. Stood in the ISS, I saw an opportunity to fulfill my dream. Without any hesitation, I'd put my spacesuit on. The canisters of oxygen could only hold an hour's worth. 1 hour, my last hour. I am my own compass, I said while exhaling. The robust heavy metal door that stood in front of me was a portal to something new, a good thing to enjoy or a challenge to make better. The only way to find out what kind of gift this would become was to reach out, open it and step in. And that was precisely what I did. Warning, oxygen tanks are empty. 30 seconds of breathable air remain. I tilt my head, gazing upward into the starry abyss. Lack of breath is felt from my body, that feeling of tiredness and lethargy. For as my lungs work to bring in the much needed oxygen, even then I feel as if I am drowning in the air. All our lives we take each breath for granted. In the eyes of the sun is an essence of peace and tranquility. a form of emotional key that is there for the tuning into. My childhood dream now accomplished. Lost his temper, Ashan said to me, and he was right. The universe has found me.
Wow. Wow, that was amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Okay, so congratulations to our secondary school short story winners. That winning one was incredible. So moving on to the open short story. It'll work the exact same way. Third place goes to Bruce Feiner of Hawara with their story, Dale the Destroyer.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was such a strong, convincing voice and a great setting, especially for the scenes in the bush, which really evoked the senses and really made me feel like I was there. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Congratulations.
Awesome. Congratulations, Bruce. Second place goes to Bruce Feiner again of Hawara with their short story, Holiday in Cambodia.
Right, that's quite funny because I was having trouble choosing between the two of them. But the first line immediately caught my attention. The dialogue was excellent. I loved the quirky black humour, the reference to Dr. Seuss's star-bellied speeches, which became a recurring motif, and wonderful imagery, such as parched playing fields under a fickle moon. And the last line summed it up nicely. So another clever story with a strong voice.
Awesome. Congratulations again, Bruce. So taking home first place tonight for the open short story is Roland McKellar of Okato with their story, Dear Eleanor.
Yeah, so this did really stand out. I laughed out loud when reading this story. It was really clever with great comedic touches, including the oafish husband renamed Burp, originally Bert, and the son Cowston. And you'll see when I read the story, so I'm not going to give too much away, but not even the pets are spared. And it's a recommended read for anyone wanting a giggle. And it was just nice with the original form as well, in the form of letters. So I'll read that out now. Dear Eleanor, 6 Morrison Street, Hawara, Taranaki, New Zealand, 4th of January 2021. Dear Eleanor, sorry I missed sending you my usual cheerful Christmas letter. I delayed because I've been doing some serious thinking. Instead, this is my New Year's letter, which is inspired by a New Year's resolution that I'm determined to always tell the truth, no matter what. Yes, I know, I'm a Pollyanna, always putting a positive spin on everything, to the point of being a bit dishonest. Well, more than a bit, truth be told. This year, I'm telling it how it really is, and I must explain. It's not in the usual way where I put a gloss on everything. I also want to correct a few things I claimed or boasted about in my last Christmas letter. Let's start with my beloved partner Bert, or should I say Burp, because that's what he does all day long after guzzling a mountain of beer, when he's not high on marijuana, that is. I know I've bragged he's a talented artist who won first prize, was actually commended in the Lysaght-Watt art contest a while ago, and is entitled to some artistic license, but I now realise he's basically a lazy slob who leaves blobs of paint, discarded paintbrushes, and paint-smeared palette lies all around the place for me to deal with, whilst never doing a scrap of work. Yesterday I even had to go and fish a paintbrush out of the toilet bowl. What on earth was he painting? No, let's not go there. I should have left him years ago, but there's still that large life insurance policy of his to be considered, worth $100,000. Yes, I know I boasted it was $1 million. I lied. I've been watching that television channel Bravo, which features criminal cases in your country, where a big life insurance cover can lead to some fatal consequences. Bert's lucky I'm a law-abiding citizen, but I'm getting a few ideas. Now let's turn to my wonderful son Cowston, grotesquely named after his paternal great-grandfather, Cowston J. Pallance, who was a carpetbagger in your country. Turning the honesty switch on to full, woeful is a more apt description of my son. What sort of a name is Cowston anyway? Cowstain more like. But what happens to your shoes if you stand anywhere in a cow paddock without looking? I don't need to tell an American cowgirl like you what I mean, do I? Yes, he did write a story which won the short story section of the Ronald Hugh Morrieson Literary Awards. What I wrote last Christmas was true. He was invited on stage at a special assembly by the school principal to be compared with a young Hemingway. What I didn't tell you was I came across a very similar story in a book of short stories on his bedside table that he'd obviously looked at very closely. His winning story wasn't word for word, it was way too similar. Plagiarism, I think it's called. This year, the principal had called him up to her office several times, but in disgrace because of something the little sod had done wrong. A while ago, it was for cheating in an exam. He'd been allowed, reluctantly, to go to the bathroom where he'd had some notes and a couple of textbooks secretly stashed. They toppled off a high ledge just as a teacher came to see why he was taking so long in the toilet cubicle, and crashed down on the man's head when the door was slammed. Alston had earlier claimed during the exam session that he had an upset stomach, and urgently needed to get to the bathroom. Last time, just a fortnight ago, he was caught smoking a joint, pinched from his father's stash in the same place. The principal let him off with a warning, not expulsion, because of his supposed literary talent, the male equivalent of our Catherine Mansfield. In reality, he's a disgrace, and a chip off the old block, his blockhead father, that is. What about my daughter Grace, as she is my one and only pride and joy? Well, she was, past tense. Most of what I said last Christmas was true, apart from winning the Opunaki Beach Teen Contest, with not too much exaggeration. She was actually placed third. But she has become really insolent and lets me know how her best friend Juliet's mum is way cooler than me, allowing her to do more as well as staying out later. This next thing I don't really want to tell you, but I have to stick to my New Year's resolution. Grace has been seeing a no-hoper called Jason Watson. He's way too old for her at 21 to her 16. When it got past 10 p.m. the other night, I asked him to leave as Grace had a big day ahead. He replied politely, "Yes, of course, I understand. Good night." And moments later, I heard the front door close. Next thing, around midnight, I heard some odd noises coming from Grace's bedroom. The hall light bulb would blow, and so torch in hand, I turned her door handle. I heard a sort of shuffling. Once inside the darkened bedroom, I noticed Grace was head down, seemingly asleep, but the torch beam revealed a muddy shoe under her bed. The window was partly open, which was odd because ravenous mosquitoes mean we have to keep them shut at night. I shone the torch under the bed and spotted the Watson lout naked. I delivered a big kick to his bum as he took off, clutching his trousers out the window. Just managed to get a second kick in as he was swallowed by the shrubbery. I dread to think what's been going on or about to go on. Luckily, her period has just started, but now Grace won't even talk to me. I have to ask Bert, to tell her what she needs to know. What a life. You still looking for a pet cat? You're welcome to ours. We'll post her to you with her head jutting out of the postal box beside the stamps. Just kidding. Now she's turned 14, she's got muddled. Feline senility, I suspect. She used to head outside to relieve herself, and now she's got her ass about face. She now scurries inside to pee in the lounge corner, and sometimes worse. Yuck. Last week she peed in my favourite shoes, the ones you gave me for my last birthday. I regret to report that they are no longer cream, but a mottled yellow. They smell like a neglected cattery, as do my feet. Finally, I'll mention my job at the primary school, our equivalent of your elementary school. I'm a teacher aide. Yes, I know I claimed as the deputy principal. Sorry. The job's fully paid, but better than nothing. However, I've been switched to a more difficult class, and I don't mean just the students. Can you believe the teacher gives me all the difficult kids to deal with, usually one-to-one, while she swans around the room with sickly smiles bestowed on her goody-goody favourites? It gets worse. The other day I caught her painting her nails, hands under the desk, just after I had to deal with a boy who swore at me before trying to kick me. He has ADD or something, which really stands for a diabolical dickhead, I'm sure. Well, that's about it. I'll end on a positive note. I still have my health. Well, apart from the worsening eczema and weekly migraines. Love, Helen. P.S. Right soon. 5320 Harry Hines Boulevard, Dallas, Texas. 75390-9034, United States. 4th of January 2021. Dear Helen, I haven't received your usual Christmas letter as yet. Our postal system here in the southern states is hopeless at this time of year. Late deliveries are usual. I expect it's been delayed, or worse, last week a whole pile of undelivered mail was found in a downtown dumpster under a decomposing dog. Maybe your one is there. Nothing is going well here for me in Dallas. I've just lost my part-time job at the cattle ranch because of COVID. I'll spare you the details. Also, I'm clinically depressed again. Was down or worse than last time. The antidepressants I've been prescribed aren't helping much and just make me feel dopey in a way worse than fairies. After talking to my shrink, psychiatrist, she thinks that my contact with you is making me more depressed. She described the effect of your monthly pen pal letters to me as toxic. She was especially alarmed when I showed her your Christmas letter from a year ago. It was so filled to the brim with the wonderful aspects of your life, such as your loving and supportive partner, a talented artist. By contrast, my latest flame has just left me for a skank who works at the local supermarket. You know, the one I told you about, the Marilyn Monroe lookalike with the trout pout and fake breasts. Reading your Christmas letter, so overflowing with your wonderful and fulfilled life, is just going to make me even more depressed. Also, there's all the positive news about your amazing kids, like your son Cowlick, or whatever his unforgettable name is, which I've forgotten. He's well on the way to becoming a great writer now he's won that Morrissey Writing Award. Is that what it's called? Ernest Hemingway, get off the sidewalk. There's a new kid on the block, you said. However, there's not much good to say about my son Randy, who's struggling at school and always getting into trouble. His teacher says I need to get him extra help with all the subjects, especially math. That's expensive, and I can't afford it on the welfare. To make matters worse, my wealthy exit date is racing towards me at breakneck speed, so soon I'll be even more broke. My useless second husband has ignored my plea for some extra money to lay on private tuition for Randy. He's planning to shift to Alaska seeking work on a fishing trawler, but it's really about escaping his responsibilities as a father. Salmon fishing, he claims, will earn big money, then he can afford to help, he says. Yeah, right, asshole. However, I do have some news about my daughter Corinne. She's been trucking with a couple of unemployed guys in their early 20s, losers I'd call them. Well, even though she's only 15, I think she's pregnant. I'm keeping my fingers crossed she's not. I don't need any more mouths to feed. Also, the idea of being a grandmother in my 40s is the absolute pits and beyond depressing. Anyway, I'm sorry to have to say this, but please no more pen pal letters, especially your cheerful Christmas one. If one arrives that has been delayed in the post, I'm afraid I won't risk reading it. My shrink says it's cathartic or something to screw it up, jump on it before tossing it in the fire. I'm just so terrified of things getting out of hand if I get worse and end up doing something stupid. Apologies to Sinatra. Luckily, I survived the last episode, but was spitting out bits of gritty charcoal for days and my mouth tasted like surgical rubber. Anyway, make sure you continue to have a great life. At least one of us should. I'm sorry to have to end our pen pal friendship, but I have to put my mental health first. I know you're planning to visit me in August, COVID allowing, so we could finally meet in person after 19 years as pen pals. Please put that on hold permanently. Take care. Love, Ellen.
Oh, I remember reading that. I read that just after you sent it through, and I had to send them all to the finalist books, and I thought, gosh, I can see why that was a winner. It was fantastic.
Yeah, very funny.
Congratulations to our open short story winners, and thanks, Eileen, for the judging of that and for reading the winner in person, being able to read. But in the circumstances, I think as we could get, and wonderfully, they had been watching this, I'm sure they will be absolutely thrilled.
Thank you.
So moving on to our poetry section, short story. There are two categories to the section, the secondary school and the open. So I'd like to welcome Vaughan Rapatahana to our awards this year, virtually of course. Vaughan is a prolific New Zealand poet who also writes a variety of other material. Born in Patia, Rapatahana is of Māori heritage. He has been published in both English and Te Reo and has been described as a global poet. Rapatahana received poetry grants in both 2013 and 15 from the Hong Kong Arts Development Council, the former of a collection of Hong Kong poets, which he initiated and co-edited, titled Out Loud 2. So Vaughan, welcome to this year's awards. We are going to hear a brief synopsis of how you found the awards this year and anything else that you would like to say before we begin announcing the winners.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Nā mihi tino mahana kia katoa hoki. Ko Vaughan Rapatahana ho, no te taoni tino atahua o Pātea, ko Taranaki taku maunga kai ora hoki. Tēnā koe mō tēnei kōwhiringa e ho, ka huria hoki te roingarihi o na tangata kei kona kaore mohi o tako reo tuatahi. So I'll speak in English for those who don't understand my first language. A brief kōrero. Thank you to the organisers of this year's Literary Awards. I was honoured to be invited to judge the poetry sections, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading through the submissions. Coming back home to run workshops and to meet the fine folk of this district was a further bonus. I was very impressed by the quality of entries and found it quite difficult to separate the winners of each section. I also wanted to recognise several fine poems and thus selected a fair number of commended entries also. More, there were a sizable number of entries, over 60 in the open section and 15 in the secondary school division, all of which augurs very well for the continuing success of these awards and as a measure of the enthusiasm of the people of this rohi that they participate in the awards. Ronald Hugh would be very impressed. I reckon he'd be even more so if the secondary school section contained just a few more entries. However, the themes across both sections were quite diverse. Of course, there were the usual poems relating love affairs, whether gone wrong, or hoha, or ongoing, or hoped for, especially in the secondary rōpū. The maunga o Taranaki featured a fair bit too, which is understandable. Portraits of rural life and rustic characters were another steady theme. There are obviously some very interesting characters around southern Taranaki. Speaking of which, Ronald Hugh made a few appearances across the pages too, as he should do. Without him, there'd be no awards. Finally, I selected poems which impressed me with distinctive word choice and innovative combination, as well as clever imagery, which made me think, yes, as I read them, which were tautly composed and did not attempt to state too much, which did not include language which tended towards cliché, which in the end were poems that I wanted to return to and read again and again, which made me made me want to write poetry, given that it is not easy to produce a poem, let alone a fine one, of which there were several in this year's submissions. Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks, Vaughan. So just like the short story, we will announce the secondary school followed by the open placings. Vaughan will share his comments about each place getter. So as Vaughan said, there are a number of commendeds for this award this year, which must be due to the high calibre of entries that came through. So we will begin with the commendeds of each category before we go into the third, second, first order. So for the commendeds, I'll just say their names, the school or where they're from, and the poem title, and then we will go into the place getters. So commended for the secondary school poetry is awarded to Anne Larkham from Taranaki Diocesan School for Girls with their poem The Shell Rolls Over with the Tide. We've also got another commended, which is Bethany Guide. I think that's how you say your last name, Bethany Guide, sorry if I've said it wrong, from Hawera High School with their poem Te Maunga o Taranaki. So moving into the place getters for poetry, we have third place goes to Aria Brophy from Opanaki High School with their poem Unannounced Arrival.
Yep. Young love and its inherent contradictions are captured so well by this piece. The change of the font is spot on too. Thank you.
Congratulations, Aria. Second place for the poetry goes to Lexi McQuaig from Opanaki High School with their poem The Society of the Phyllo Pastry Girl.
An extended metaphor that is delicate to the touch, yet so completely nourishing. Well done. Ka pai.
Congratulations, Lexi. Taking home first place tonight for the secondary school poetry is Jacob Taylor from Hawera High School with their poem Love Actually.
Yes, congratulations, Jacob. Informal yet exact, wistful and longing. Great poem, which in just a few lines captures love actually. So I will read this fine poem. Love Actually. I want to stay here forever, prowling under the pale flickering streetlights of Manaia at dusk. Forever stargazing, people watching, the chorus of our bike chains clicking as we grind the gears. Can we stay here forever? Can we please stay melting our bodies onto scorching concrete in summer, speckled with salt spray, drawing genitals on high school hallways and smoking in the bathrooms before love consumes us both, counting down the days till love fractures the power of our teen years. So let's bite through the mellow yellow catacombs of our town, fueled by the uncertainty of adulthood and fear of death. Now here I sit, writing this love letter to my youth. One final farewell to 15 as the clock ticks over to 16. That's a very good poem. Thank you.
That's an awesome poem. Congratulations, Jacob. So congratulations to our secondary school poetry winners. Moving into our open poetry, just like the secondary school poetry, we had a number of commended awards this year, which again must be definitely due to the high caliber of entries that came through. I know the open poetry section was our largest category that received the most entries this year. So I'm sure Vaughan's job was very tough. So the commended for open poetry is awarded to Jemana Lewis of Hawera with their poem Requiem for My Father. It also goes to Kate Bryn of New Plymouth with their poem Campsite 18. Rosemary Joyce of Manaia with their poem Deliverance. Michaela Nyman of New Plymouth with their poem Date with Syphilis.
Sisyphus, rolling the boulder up the top of the hill and coming down. It's out of Camus. Okay, yep.
It also goes to Dave Lee of Hawera with their poem. Now, Vaughan, you may need to help me with this one. Thank you. Thank you. I've been practicing that all day and I not quite there. We also have Willow Noor of Hawera with their poem Street Life. Stuart Greenhill of Stratford with their poem Taranaki Weka. Corinne Miller of Hawera with their poem The Scream of the Butterfly. And Michaela Stoneman of Patia with their poem Till Spring.
I think you missed one, Catherine.
Oh, did I?
After karanga ki te rā, whakatūwhera. Fibres, feathers.
Oh, I did too. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So we've also got Marketing Edwards with their poem Fibres, Feathers,
Earth and Sky.
Earth and Sky. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Marketing, but congratulations to all our commendeds. Massive list. I have to say, when I received the list from Vaughan, I thought, oh my goodness, he had a hard job and he's narrowed it down. So congratulations, everybody. So third place of our open poetry section goes to Michaela Nyman of New Plymouth with their poem Lonely Sailors.
Yeah, great poem, which draws us into the story of the sea voyages and their effect on those who see them. Tightly composed, tautly descriptive. A fine poem. Thank you.
Awesome. Congratulations, Michaela. Second place goes to Stuart Greenhill of Stratford with their poem Pukinahu Andy.
Pukengahu, yes. This is an excellent poem. The repetition is effective, the imagery succinct and clever. We can feel the scene, can imagine Andy's vital presence. Another very fine poem. Thank you.
Congratulations, Stuart. And taking home first place for open poetry tonight is also Stuart Greenhill of Stratford with their poem Hanging on a Wire.
Stuart again, yeah. I found it a bit like Eileen did with her top placings, hard to differentiate at the very end there. Hanging on a Wire, a fine poem, economical yet lyrical with some excellent and original imagery. Conjures up the image of the aged man and his surroundings extremely well. And it'd be my pleasure to read Hanging on a Wire. Our tanga, deeds chop words into the ring of life, battened to fence posts like dried bones of old men hanging in the sou'wester. Whiskered, but like me, whiskered, bleached grey, pinched to a staple, the heartwood's solid and true. In the windows, starting again. In the window he waits, remembers, stomping hoof, panting heat, yards shimmering till every edge broke to a whistle, to a voice, to fragmented colour, to a dash of legs across fleece and rail, to barking shade of willow and trough, when he sang banjo with Doug on a goods train, shunting soot into words of war on his lap, when he waltzed talcum on a penny, round Jenny, sipped dandelion wine from a burlap outback. Now, 93, sunk to his ears, stooped like a bird, clasping a Zimmer frame, he shuffles down the drive, stopping occasionally to study puddles and the movement of clouds. That's a great poem. That's a real top-class piece of work. Taranaki should be very proud of its
I agree.
poets.
The poetry, as you sent it through, I had a squiz because I had to send them into the finalist booklet, and I thought, wow, they were great. Yeah. So congratulations to our open poetry winners, and thanks, Vaughan, for your judging and for taking the time to do all of the work that's required as being a judge. So thank you. So moving into our final awards for the evening, our research article. So the research article is a slightly different award to the other two sections. The research article is our newest category, with this being its 6th year. Unlike the short story and the poetry, the research article category is only open to secondary school students. However, it's not limited to South Taranaki only. All students whose parents and caregivers are residents or ratepayers in the Taranaki region can enter, as well as receiving $500 prize money sponsored by the Normanby District Lions Club. The winner also receives a 1-year subscription to the Taranaki Daily News. and there is an opportunity for the winning story to be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. The winner will also share the article at a Lions Club meeting in the new year. Each year, the theme changes slightly, while still focusing on small town New Zealand. The theme for this year was In Taranaki, Anything is Possible, stories of success that began in Taranaki. Whilst numbers entering were lower than last year, the calibre for the writing remains high. I attended a workshop that Matt ran at one of our local schools, and the attendance for the workshop was significantly higher than I believe it has been in the past, which was excellent. So it shows the interest is there. Unfortunately, Matt Rilkoff is unable to attend the awards this year. He is our judge, and he's also the representative at the Daily News. So we have in his place one of our Library Plus staff who is doing the background work at the moment on the Zoom. So this evening, Lane Winiata will be reading the comments from Matt's judging, and the sponsor of the research category, the Ngāpuhi District Lions Club President Brian Kirk, will be reading the winning article of the research category. So we're going to get straight into it without any further waiting. So third place goes to Neo Hatcher from New Plymouth Boys High School with their article titled Dennis Cow, Success and Service.
So the judges' comments for Dennis Crow's Success and Service. Dennis Crow is a man of his time and his community. This kindly told story of a bastion of Waitara is full of delightful observations and intimate insights into the character of a man contented with his life and the people he shares it with. Crow's story is a story we can all relate to and feel reassured that the meaning of life is right in front of us and the people we share it with.
Awesome, thanks, Lane. So congratulations, Neo. Second place goes to Samuel Salisbury from New Plymouth Boys High School with their article titled Life is Music.
So the judges' comments for this one: life really is a music for former Taranaki man Graham Jones. Through a series of serendipitous events and no small helping of courage, Jones has built a life of great satisfaction and honesty, playing the music from his heart. This highly relatable story is rich in detail and plays out like an opera. Ups and downs, setbacks and successes, and a discovery of oneself that ultimately reaches a rewarding conclusion. But that does not mean Jones's journey has ended. It's just time to start a new chapter. We can all expect to hear more of Jones in the future, and it will sound great.
Awesome, thanks, Lane. Congratulations, Samuel. Taking home first place tonight for the secondary school research article is Thea Iris Lacanaria from Sacred Heart Girls College with their article titled The Sweet Smell of Success.
The judges' comments. The sweet smell of success reads like a timeless immigrant tale of struggling and striving to make a new life in a new home. In this case, the struggling and striving involves donuts, delicious donuts. Ryan and Belle Inocencio story of how they established a piece of Filipino donut culture in Taranaki is a story told with sweet, mouth-watering simplicity and gentle, honest intimacy. It takes you along on Belle and Ryan's tentative but determined journey to build a business and future out of something they loved but found lacking in their new home. Success was hard won, but that made the journey and story's end all the more satisfying. If you haven't already, by the time you have finished this story, you will want to try one of R&B's donut sensations.
Awesome, thanks, Lane. And we'll hear from Brian with the article, please.
I'm trying to unmute Brian, sorry, but I can't.
Oh dear. Brian, are you able to unmute yourself? You might have to hit the little microphone in the bottom of your screen.
I can only hit ask to unmute. Oh, there
Is
we
it
go.
better?
Yep, perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, and it's probably just as well as the fire siren's just been going outside here, so it might have been a bit embarrassing. Before I start, congratulations, Thea, and we look forward to meeting you and hearing you read this wonderful story to our club at some later date. It's titled The Sweet Smell of Success. Everyone loves donuts. Their sugary glaze, mouth-watering dough and heavenly scent are enough to trigger anyone's sweet tooth. However, there weren't many places in Taranaki where people could get their hands on these delectable treats. That was until 4 years ago, when Bella and Ryan and Asensio decided to make their own. Ryan first arrived in New Plymouth in 2007 from the Philippines, with Belle following shortly after. Both of them shared a love of donuts and were shocked when they couldn't find any donut houses in New Plymouth. They would often have to travel as far as Auckland or Hamilton to buy donuts in bulk. It made them sad that they couldn't enjoy donuts as often as they could in the Philippines, where there was an abundance of donut shops. However, around 10 years later, the couple began to ask themselves, what if we tried making our own donuts? At that moment, a spark had been lit inside of them, and a new idea was born. Belle and Ryan first turned to YouTube tutorials on how to make donuts, and after much trial and error, they started making the first donuts. Their donuts at the time still had a long way to go, but they were determined to get it right and make something delicious. Back then, they would often ask their friends to taste test for them, and from their feedback, the two of them began to improve and develop their own recipe. Being one of their designated taste testers was always a treat, and my sweet-toothed 10-year-old self loved to taste each one of their new flavors. At this point, they only really shared their donuts with their friends and people within their community. But after much encouragement and positive feedback, they branched out and decided to start selling their donuts under the name R&B Donut Sensation in October 2017. In the beginning, it was difficult to gain traction. By the end of markets, they often had many leftovers, which hurt their profit. Starting a small business that had yet to gain a reputation, it was hard to prove that their donuts were worthwhile. With so many businesses vying for people's attention, they had to grapple against much larger businesses to gain customers. For a time, their efforts saw little success, and they were faced with many challenges. I remember helping at those markets back then when there weren't as many customers, and it allowed my younger self to see how much effort and hard work it took to run a business. The hours of waiting at your stall in hopes that someone would come and buy your product, only for them to walk past without a second glance. It made me feel sad that they put so much effort into what they loved, but only saw little success. Though many people would have long since been discouraged, the two of them knew that they needed to prove that their donuts were worth people's time and money, saying that when you start a business, you need to prove your worth. Over the year to come, they continued to craft their recipe as well as develop more flavors. As they became more frequent at markets, more and more people began to buy their donuts. Donut enthusiasts from all around Taranaki began to learn about them, and soon after, their business took off. The R&B Donut Sensation name had begun to grow. While also having a job outside the business, Ryan has to wake up extremely early to get the donuts ready. Before the sun even goes up, Ryan is already making the dough for the donuts before work, which takes 2 to 3 hours. Then Belle spends 3 to 4 hours glazing the donuts, giving them the tasty sweet glaze so many have come to adore. The whole process can take from 6 to 7 hours on a busy day, and that's not all. Not only do they have to make the donuts, but they also need to sell them, which can take the whole day when they have a market. But at the end of the day, it's their passion and love for what they do that fuels them to keep going. Their business has given them many opportunities to grow, make friends, and to bake and eat donuts to their heart's desires. For them, the best feeling is at the end of a busy market day when they come home and all their donuts are sold. Compared to the beginning of their donut making journey, anyone can see how much they've grown and developed as partners and business owners. Watching Belle and Ryan's business grow from a simple desire to make donuts to their business soon to reach its 4th year anniversary has been both inspiring and remarkable. Their sweet success story is one of many ups and downs, but they were able to achieve their dream with the power of determination, perseverance, and teamwork.
Thank you, Brian. That's a great story. And after hearing that, I think I need to go and find these donuts to try them because they sounded amazing.
So do I. So I miss Philippine donuts.
You'll have to come back to South Taranaki, well, to Taranaki to try some, yeah.
But they're in New Plymouth, are they?
It sounds like it, yes. Well, congratulations to Thea. That's a great article. And who knows, I think you might have started your journalism career right there. So congratulations to our research article winners, and thanks Lane and Brian for stepping in and just acting on behalf of Matt this evening. I know he wishes he was able to make it, but circumstances don't always allow. So this concludes our presentations for this evening. Despite being unable to gather in person this year, like we'd preferred, we hope this won't deter anyone from entering the awards for next year. As mentioned at the beginning of the Zoom, I will be in contact with all place getters tomorrow with more information regarding how we will proceed with their prizes. Again, thanks to our sponsors for their support, to our communities, and our judges. If it wasn't for the support and willingness to be part of the awards this year, we wouldn't have such a great awards. And I think the workshops really helped with the entries this year. I believe that the workshops were really well attended, and everybody that attended seemed to have really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for being part of the awards this year. Without the support, we wouldn't be basically here today. It's not possible to do everything on as one person or one team. You know, we've got to all get together and help each other out. So thank you, everybody. Congratulations to everybody who placed this evening, and to everybody who also entered. Even if you didn't quite place, congratulations to all who participated and gave it a go. Hope you give it a go again next year. And yeah, thank you. So Lane, if you want to stop recording.